Okay, stop share. Share screen.
I even ready to go.
Lisa, we ready to go? Okay.
Okay. And I will call this meeting of the Sandpoint City Planning Commission to order. Oh, here we go.
Hey, Mose. You're there, Mose.
Let's see, since we're not all in one spot, I will actually do the roll call. Mose Dunkel.
Here.
Forrest Shook.
Here.
Forrest. Yeah, John Hastings.
Here.
Jason Welker.
Here.
Slate Camp.
Here.
Kate Huseman.
Here.
And myself, Tom Riggs, I am here. Are there any announcements, Aaron?
Nope.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public forum. This would be the time that if anyone has something to bring before or to the Planning Commission's attention that's not already on the agenda, this would be the time to do so. Is there any such thing? Hearing none, I will move to the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of the minutes. Let's see, item number 5A is the minutes from April 1st, 2020.
21st.
Pardon me?
April 21st.
Okay. And item 5B are the minutes from December 3rd, 2019. Even though on our agenda it says 2020, it's actually 2019. Are there any questions, comments regarding the consent calendar, or if not, is there a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I believe that was Forrest Shook moved for approval of the consent calendar. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And that is John Hastings seconded it. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any nays? No abstentions? Good. Looks like it's 7-0 in favor. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Yes, there is none on new business.
Is new business?
Not do a great job with the agenda this time.
Well, the next item on the agenda is item 7A. No, 6A. It's zone change request PZC 20-0001. It's a proposal for a zone change from Industrial Technology Park to Industrial General for a 9.43 acre parcel at the west end of Mountain View Drive, addressed as 902 East Mountain View Drive. This is a parcel of land adjacent to the Sandpoint Airport. Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give a brief overview of the request and then turn it over back to you where you may invite the applicant or applicant representative to provide a presentation. Those online, I'm seeing a little, my screen is showing half an image at the moment.
Yeah, that's all I'm seeing too, but I can look at the staff report you
Let me try that
sent
again.
out.
Here comes help. Stop your sharing and restart.
Oh, you share. Okay.
Better.
Okay, that looks better. This is a zone change request by Timberline Aerospace for a change from Industrial Tech Park to Industrial General. They are requesting to stay within industrial zoning classification, just a different industrial zone. The difference between the two zones The development regulations are relatively similar. However, the uses within those zones are somewhat different. Industrial general allows generally for more high-intensity uses, medium industrial, including, not necessarily limited to, helipads, which is, per the narrative, one of the key needs for this request. In the staff report, we have provided analysis consistent with requirements of Idaho Code and Sandpoint City Code. I'm bringing up now the current zoning designation. You can see that surrounded on two sides of the parcel is currently the gray industrial general, whereas this purplish color is industrial tech park. The white is residential single family. The blue, light blue, is residential multifamily. You can see that these lines here denote the recently adopted lateral safety zone around the airport in accordance with Idaho state guidelines, ITD Division of Aeronautics. The use change would not be in conflict with the new requirements of that zone, which essentially prohibits up zones for those types of uses that increase more uses such as assembly and residential density, et cetera. So it is consistent in that regard with our ordinance. And in the recently adopted airport facilities chapter, the intended zone change is not only consistent, but I'll scroll down to those revised goals and objectives. It is encouraged to provide for economic development opportunities that would be mutually beneficial to the airport and create essentially job creating opportunities. The site is can be adequately served. Subsequent development may trigger some right-of-way dedication. I've noted that the current right-of-way width is appears to be substandard. There also may be additional sewer and water lines, but broadly the city is able to serve any subsequent development on that site. We have not heard any comments from the school district. We did not receive any comments from the airport. I did double check. However, we did receive one comment from Andy Berry, and I will go ahead and read it into the record right now. Andy Berry is the owner of the airport FBO, fixed based operator, and his comments are as follows. I believe that this zone change will be a great economic benefit to our community. I've also included various other goals and objectives from other chapters within our existing comp plan, and we've included public hearing procedures. With that, I would, as well as some general reference to land use compatibility within the found within the Sandpoint area Sandpoint Airport Master Plan. Staff has found no conflicts within that plan. The unique, I guess, aspect of this particular parcel with regards to the Sandpoint area, Sandpoint Airport Master Plan is that it does designate in the preferred airfield alternative 2 for voluntary acquisition or easement dedication to extend the east side taxiway, which is intended to bring the airport into better align with FAA design standards, particularly for future upgrades to a B2 class airport. With that, I would answer any questions at this time. If there are none, you may proceed with the public hearing procedures.
Aaron, do we need to inquire about individual conflicts of interest before we proceed with this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As a standard procedure for all quasi-judicial public hearings, we always ask if any commissioner has any conflicts of interest or has had any ex parte contact. Ex parte contact, of course, is when you've had any discussions outside of these proceedings that may make you privy to information that everyone else attending this hearing may not be privy to.
Why don't I just run through the roll then and ask individually, Commissioner Dunkel,
No conflict.
Commissioner Shook,
No conflict.
Hastings,
None.
Welker,
None.
Camp,
No conflict.
Huesman. Okay, Huesman.
You're
Unmute.
muted, Kate.
None.
And I have no conflicts. Let me briefly describe the hearing procedure we'll follow today. City staff has explained the subject of the hearing. Next will be the presentation by the applicant. Commission members should address their questions to the applicant at this time. Following the applicant's testimony, I'll open the public hearing in which the public may provide testimony. Questions should be asked of the person testifying before they finish. If there are a sufficient number of people, we will call on those in favor of the application first, those who are neutral second, and thirdly, those opposed. And if necessary, there will be rebuttal testimony from the applicant at that time. And following that, I'll close the hearing. Then the commission will deliberate. So with that, I'll call upon the applicant for the applicant's presentation. Would that be Martin Taylor?
Thanks,
Or
Mr.
someone
Chairman.
else?
This is Marty Taylor. Am I unmuted?
I can barely hear
Yes, you
Martin.
are, but you're pretty faint.
Hold
We're gonna
on
turn
a
up the
second,
volume
Marty.
just a little bit.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is Marty Taylor. Am I unmuted?
You're not muted. It's just not very loud. Okay.
I'm on a landline phone. Is this coming in okay, Brent?
That's better, Marty. Why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, first of all, for accommodating tonight's proceeding. I appreciate that, planning commissioners, and also thanks to staff for coordinating the technology part of it. As we know about rezones, it's all about consistency with the comprehensive plan. In this instance, the property is comp planned industrial. The request is for industrial zoning. The project is completely consistent with that land use map. As to the goals and policies, I included a narrative that discusses how the proposed rezone is consistent therewith, as does staff's report. The purpose for the rezone, in summary, is the applicant desires to begin an aviation-related industry that involves more manufacturing and fabrication and equipment maintenance types of activities that are better suited for what I would call a more heavy industry district versus the industrial technology park, which is more of a lighter industry district. So that's the purpose for the rezone, is to better fit the proposed aviation-related business, which of course is adjacent to the airport. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would entertain any comments from the Planning Commission. If none, we would respectfully request a recommendation for approval of the rezone as petitioned on behalf of Timberline Aerospace, and Travis Storrow is their chief operating officer, and I don't know if Travis was able to log in tonight's proceeding or not. That would conclude my comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Commissioners, does anyone have questions of Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I have, I have some questions. Is it can I go ahead, Chairman?
Oh, yes, please. This is Kate Huesman that has questions.
Yeah, Marty, I have two questions. One is about, given that there's a helicopter coming in, or there will be helicopters coming in and out, and this area is relatively close to, although buffered from residential single-family zoning, what can we anticipate in terms of noise of helicopters arriving and landing? And I noticed that the EPA had some concerns about dust, and I wondered whether that was an issue also, whether you anticipate dust blowing up being an issue there, blowing dust being an issue as choppers come and go. Are you going to have one a week, one a day, one an hour? What's the plan? Do you know?
Thanks, Kate. As to the helicopter possible usage, while it's convenient to use the subject site as a helipad, the property is adjacent to an airport where helicopters could land, use the through access, and simply taxi onto the property. So the distinction is just a few feet between landing on the airport runway versus landing on the subject site as far as compatibility with the area. With regard to the DEQ comment, it wasn't the EPA, it was the DEQ. And what they do is they have been generating a form letter that has pages of different standards, most of which aren't even applicable to the majority of the projects that they're asked to review. So I would caution us about the DEQ comments. Regardless, the area is to be hard surfaced, which is the primary way to mitigate dust.
And as choppers come and go, is there dust around? Do we anticipate more dust or just interference with daily life of the people in the residences to the south and east?
I wouldn't know that there'd be any more of a disruption over what's proposed versus what's existing. And the properties to the south are actually zoned industrial already, and most of the properties to the east are on the east side of Boyer.
So we just don't know at this point whether there will be significant change to the environment for people living in the proximity, nearby, but not adjacent to, as you point out.
Well, Marty Taylor again, we know that there would be a change. I don't know that it's any different. Well, let me rephrase. That doesn't make much sense. The property is adjacent to an airport. It's an aviation-related business that can land on the airport, taxiway through the fence, and get onto the subject property. So the distinction is, does it land on the property or does it land 50 feet away on the airport runway? And to that extent, I don't know that there's any appreciable difference between landing the helicopter on the subject site or landing it on the adjacent airport.
Right, yeah, I see what you mean there. I'm just wondering if having this business there will generate a lot more helicopter traffic. And it doesn't sound like we have the answer to that question. Is that correct?
I think we're emphasizing one of several uses that might occur on the property, that being a helipad. The purpose for the rezone is to accommodate manufacturing and equipment repair and more industrial type activities than fit under the ITP zoning, which is more of a Coachava, Micron, Intel type business, not conducive to aviation related maintenance activities.
Right. Okay, yeah, I think that answers my question as best it can be answered at this point. Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair,
Yes,
if I could provide a couple items of clarity. I guess, first of all, industrial general does not allow for heavy industry. Just to be clear, not that that's what's being proposed, just wanted to make sure that was clear in the record. We do allow for, there are more flexibility for medium manufacturing uses, and of course, the allowance of helipads. the ITP zone is not restricted to high tech. It does allow for light manufacturing as well as hangars. But the ITP zone for a helicopter aerospace company, given the need for a helipad, would not be able to support landing on the property. And then if I may, I had one question for the applicant. Marty, currently just to the south, Cross Airport Way, and another parcel down, Timberline Aerospace currently operates out of with an existing helipad. They're off of airport property, but in the IG zone. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with their other properties or practices.
It does look that way.
My understanding, and maybe Travis can, if he's on, can weigh in. My understanding is that Timberline Aerospace currently operates on Industrial Drive.
And Aaron, this is Fonda Jovic. You may want to pull up the chat that Travis typed into the record as well and read that into the record.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Appreciate that, Fonda. So this is from Travis. This is from Travis Storrow, the CEO of Timberline Aerospace. It is worth noting that Timberline has been here operating helicopters since August 2010, and we are simply relocating to a parcel to the north with no proposed change in frequency of operations.
All right, thank you. Does that answer your question,
Yes,
Aaron?
and I think it kind of speaks to what Commissioner Huseman was inquiring about as far as expansion of use of helicopter takeoffs and landings.
Yes. All right. Are there other questions for Marty Taylor, for the applicant, from the commissioners? No. Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll next call upon, is there anyone else who wishes to testify on behalf of the applicant or in favor of the application?
And I'll ask Aaron, are there any other people that are online?
And I will ask Melissa, this is kind of a dry run for us. So because we have a form, typically we have a hearing sign-up sheet, but we've transitioned that to online for the time being. And so I will ask Melissa if we have any new online submissions for speaking in favor.
All right, thank you. So next I will ask, are there any online submissions of anyone who wishes to speak but is neutral on the application? And is there anyone who is opposed? All right. So Marty, I assume you don't need any rebuttal testimony in this case.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then I think we are, unless anyone else has questions, I think we're ready to close the hearing. Is there anything else? If not, I will close the hearing, and that brings us to commission deliberation. There being no new information provided at this time, and questions may be directed only to city staff during deliberations. From the commission, are there any questions of staff? And if not,
So Aaron, the comment you just read from the chat, it sounds like Timberline's relocating their offices, their headquarters from the current property just to the south onto this 9-acre parcel.
Yes, that is according to the chat message from Mr. Storrow.
are there other comments, or is there any deliberation that anyone feels the need to have
beyond the comments included in the packet from DEQ and Independent Highway District, the only other comment that we received in advance of the hearing was that from Mr. Andy Berry, which we read into the record. Nothing else.
All right. Well, is anyone on the commission ready to make a motion on this application?
Tom, there's something I want to bring up first.
Sure.
And that is, if we, I think this seems like a great idea on the face of it. I just want to look at the fact that we are, if we grant this change, putting a big dent in our ITP area. And should we ever choose to go to someone like Kachava or Microsoft or, you know, one of those tech outfits want to locate out there, it takes a big chunk out of the area that we had available for that purpose. It made me wonder why we had chosen to have the ITP designation in the first place. So I went back to the minutes from 2010 when we discussed this. And our idea at the time was we were thinking we might have a University of Idaho campus here. We thought maybe school, I think, was a conditional use in the ITP, so we could have classroom schooling in the same area as we would have the tech space. And one of our then commissioners, Aaron Qualls, mentioned some concerns about restricting the use of the land in this way, given that we did not know whether we would ever have a university actually coming to town. So that proved to be prescient. I'm kind of inclined to grant this zone change anyway. I think this is a good use of this land. I don't see that much use has been made of it as an industrial tech park, but I wonder, Aaron or Ryan, can you fill me in as to what kinds of uses have gone into that area in the past decade, and are we giving up an opportunity to have a tech center there if we grant this zoning change?
I think those are interesting questions, but it strikes me that it's sort of evidentiary, and we've already closed the hearing, and that didn't come up in the main testimony and body of the hearing. I'm kind of uncomfortable with going down this road now that we're in the phase of deliberating on the testimony that's before us. And there was no testimony from any applicant, witness, or anyone else from the public about this subject matter. So I'm a bit uncomfortable with going down this road.
Well, Mr. Chair, if maybe a best response is that they're great questions to ask, and I think the appropriate time to ask those is during our comprehensive plan update, and that which we are embarking in right now. Those are great questions as we look to update the future land use map of the plan, which is which we will be talking about a little bit, just as a general update subsequent to this agenda item. But I think those are great conversations to have, maybe not pertinent to this particular application, but they are, I'm happy to hear that they're in the back of Kate's mind. They certainly are in the back of my mind, and I hope all of yours.
Kate, does that work for you?
Yeah, except if we grant this zoning change, then we lose that opportunity. That's why it seemed to me now is the time to discuss whether that was an issue to discuss, whether or not we'd want to grant the zoning change. So evidently I see it differently from you, and that's no big deal for me. And I'm happy to discuss it when we discuss updating the comp plan. But from my perspective, it does factor into whether or not it's appropriate to grant this zoning change.
And I guess if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please, go ahead.
Well, to be clear, the industrial tech park, despite its name, does not only allow for technological type uses. Those types of uses are certainly encouraged and allowed. And yet Commissioner Huseman's right that, allowing that in an area where it was predicted a college campus may end up, across the street, I think really did factor into those decisions in 2010 or 11. However, the industrial tech park does allow for a variety of other uses. It wasn't just restricted to those, such as hangars, such as light manufacturing. We have a biomedical company there that has been expanding in that zone. For example, that's probably one of the only, I can't really think of many more examples beyond that, frankly. But so to that small degree, it has, that is a technological type, use that has thrived there. But what the future holds, those are great conversations to have as we go through our comp plan update.
All right. So thank you for those comments, Aaron. Well, we have Kate's comments and thoughts on this. Are there any other comments that other commissioners have? And if not, is there a motion?
I did provide for some suggested motion language in the staff report on page 10. I can bring that up for you if you like.
I can make a motion. So, yeah, shall I?
Go ahead.
Sure. I move the Sandpoint Planning Commission, after consideration of the criteria and relevant standards of Idaho Code and Sandpoint City Code, recommend that the Sandpoint City Council approve the request by Timberline Aerospace for a zone rechange or change from ITP to IG for the property known as parcel RPS 0000106900A, located at section 10, township 57 north, range 2 west. Reasons?
Yes.
Should I read those specific reasons, or should I just give some general
I think it's
reasons?
sufficient if you refer to reasons 1, 2 through
Okay.
3 and any other findings of fact that or conclusions are based on the deliberations reflected in the minutes.
So the reasons for this decision are: particular consideration has been given to the effects of this proposed zone change upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision providing public services within the planning jurisdiction. Staff has followed the notice procedures applicable to zone changes contained in Idaho Code 676511 and Sandpoint City Code Title 9, Chapter 9. The proposed industrial general zoning designation is consistent with the existing land use patterns and is in accordance with the goals and policies of the Sandpoint Comprehensive Plan. I think I'd just add my own reason here, having a local business that's looking to expand on almost adjacent property that happens to be zoned slightly differently than its current property just makes sense. We're encouraging that expansion and development. I mean, more jobs, more income in the area makes good sense. And having an aerospace company like this right on the edge of the airport seems pretty common sense. So,
All right. We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Well, I think Slate beat you to it, Forrest.
That's fine.
All right. I will call, well, is there any other discussion on the motion? Then I will call the roll. Commissioner Dunkel,
Yes.
Commissioner Shook,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp,
Yes.
Commissioner Huseman,
Yes.
And I am a yes also, so that motion is approved 7-0. That concludes our work on our business on item number 6A, and it brings us to old business, which is item 7A, a comprehensive plan update from Director Qualls.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll make this really brief. I really just want to make sure the comprehensive plan is agendized really every time you meet, in case there's anything you want to bring to our attention as we move through this, and we will be bringing back to you draft goals and objectives. We had a 2-hour meeting today with our steering committee, which followed a 2-hour meeting before that last week. They're doing a great job of really getting into the weeds and the details and really being very intentional and thinking through every line of every goal and objective. So I think we will have a fairly robust draft to bring to the public in May. We are still evaluating the best strategies for involving the public in this time. We have a variety of different platforms that we may employ to do so. Obviously, we've been employing platforms for hearings and meetings here. There are others that may make engagement online more fun and interesting, and if there are opportunities for appropriate ways to meet in person, we will also be exploring those as well. Following that, we will start to get into, we will also be looking at future land use designations and the future land use map. And so I guess in the meantime, I would ask all of you to have your thinking caps on and, your experience, having, and your on the ground experience and your experience of commissioners to think about what land use designations make sense where and how that might change and how we might integrate more into those designations in terms of transportation and form of the built environment, et cetera. So lots more to come. I didn't have a presentation yet. We've been working, just wanted to update you and work really hard and answer any questions or take any feedback that you have at this stage in the process.
Does anyone have feedback for Aaron?
I do not at this point.
I hope that we'll be able to get robust public input under the circumstances, and I don't know if that in any way will lengthen the projected timeline in order for that to happen. But yeah, I certainly hope we do whatever we possibly can to get robust public input.
For now, we are trying to stay on schedule. But, to your point, a plan is only as good as the support that it has to implement. That's another thing that we are going to be looking at too, is specific implementation strategies. Right? So we have goals, objectives to fulfill those goals, and then beyond that, specific implementation strategies and how they should be prioritized going forward. So there's a lot more work to do. I'm very happy with where we're at now with the goals and objectives, and I look forward to bringing those to you.
All right, thank you. I believe that concludes our business, and I think we're ready for adjournment unless anyone has anything else. If not, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.